What's up, Squadron? Aviation has given me a ton of amazing experiences. And more importantly, it's introduced me to a whole new family of friends. Join us tonight because we're cleared direct for some hangar flying. I'm Bryan Turner, and this is SuperAero Live. What is up, I should get that over my ear. What's up, AvGeek SuperAero Squadron? It's your boy Dembro coming at you live from the SuperAero Squadron basement. We're off to a great start. It's a professional show, and before I introduce my highly esteemed guest, just want to say thank you to my wife who's upstairs dealing with 2 screaming children. So guys, if you're going to marry someone who will deal with your kids so you can go make a stupid YouTube show. Going to say hi to a couple people in the chat real quick before we get things started. Zachary Sherman. Hey, welcome to the chat. I don't think I've seen you here before. Great to have you. Ryan Krueger, our good friend of the channel. Krueger, great to have you, buddy. Who else? Oh, yeah, people are talking about the SpaceX scrub today. That was a bummer. We could have talked about that, but that didn't happen. This is the next best thing. I was watching it a live stream. This is a better live stream. Angle of Attack, Chris Palmer from a couple weeks ago. He's in the chat. How you doing, buddy? Hope Alaska's good. Barry, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Barry. Barry Herwald. Something Wald. Barry's a new Patreon supporter of SuperAero, which is awesome. He is going to get some patches in the mail. Oh, which one's which? It's hard. It's flipped on my screen, and I can't really... I don't know. He's going to get some awesome patches in the mail. Thanks for your support, buddy. You can do that, too. Check out the link below. You can go to Patreon and support the channel. Also, just subscribe, share, all that jazz. Say a couple of things. My old friend 782 Papa's here. Bob Smith is here, watching from Australia, which is super, super dope. And Marty in the chat is commenting that the intro worked. That's correct. After 4-5 weeks of trying to get the intro to work, it finally worked. All right, so I want to show you guys who's laughing at my dumb jokes in the background. I want to introduce you to, coming all the way from somewhere in Texas, Mr. Bryan Turner. Hello,
What's going on,
friend.
Man?
Thanks for joining me tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me. My phone's about to die, so if we could just wrap this up, that'd be great.
Okay, cool. Well, that's been a great show. Thanks for coming on. Sorry to Matt Damon. We ran out of time. That's basically what's happening right now. Bryan, you have a channel. You're kind of a legend in aviation influencerville, I think. You have a channel and various properties across the internet, Just Plain Silly.
Yeah.
Which is all very serious content only.
I'm trying to educate the community and make pilots safer. It's my mission, and I think I'm doing a good job.
Yeah, I mean, there's been no controversy about it at all. It's all been very straightforward, really bland and dry educational material. Yeah,
it's you know what, learning is not always fun, but it's important that people learn and that they're safe, and it's been a smooth ride.
So Barry says that I said it close enough, but you didn't say which pronunciation was right. And Noah Goldstein's in the chat. Hey, Noah. 72 Papa says, never heard of him. I guess we're done here.
Mom, you're in the chat?
Mom, where's our moms? Mom's in the chat. Hey, so why don't we do this? I mean, you sent me a video that kind of introduces you. And I could play that, and then 782 Papa would at least know who you are. He would get a sense of who you are. So I'm going to go ahead, if that's cool with you.
It is. I got that video for you, and I carry that video around with me everywhere. Like at a meeting at work, I play the video everywhere I go. If I'm going to a funeral, like, here's the video, guys, and then I'll come in and do my part.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's really sound. You keep it on like a flash drive or...
a small TV, this battery-powered TV. I don't know.
Yeah, like one of those DVD players that like flips up and it's got the monitor.
That's what it is.
All right, here. If you haven't seen Bryan's stuff before, this is just a good example of the work he does.
mile. Call the ball.
Wait, what?
Call the ball.
Alright, I'm calling the ball now.
Roger. Trevor, catch the ball.
Actually, I've got the ball. What am I supposed to do with the ball?
Traffic.
So that sums it up, and I'm hearing, I think I can hear my kids screaming upstairs. Oh, my wife's name is Kristen, and I am so sorry. I hear people screaming, Daddy! Daddy! Oh, that is just rough. Okay, anyway. That's going...
I like that video. That helmet and gas mask actually were given to me by a friend of mine named Doug Masters. He was a young pilot, and he actually died. He was shot down by a uniquely Russian-made F-4 Phantom when he was training some students how to do some stuff. It's a real sad story. Doug Masters is a good guy. But so I got his helmet and his gas mask, and I thought I'd use it for that video.
That I don't have any. I will just raise a glass then, I guess, for that. That's
yeah.
See, with all the drama upstairs, I didn't have time to grab my beer, so you have to drink 2 of them for us.
I got an extra large giant beer, so
that's good. Not hashtag hash brown, not a sponsor.
No.
All right. So, I mean, the other thing, you sent me another video that I wonder if we could just cut right to another video, because this one made me laugh super hard. And you titled it Shenanigans.
Oh, I want to be like the guy on the TV shows, like, I don't know what clip you're about to play, Bob. Yeah,
yeah.
I just think about the things that people comment to me the most on. They're like, oh, I like this or I like that. And so I kind of took those little things and mashed it up and threw it at you in your Dropbox.
All right. So, they didn't tell you what they sent me. So hopefully you aren't embarrassed by this. I know that's a thing that's happening on late night a lot. But let's see this, and hopefully you're still willing to hang on to the show afterwards.
Let's see if... Oh my God! It's so hot! It's so hot! The fuselage of the Grumman is actually solid. It's made from recycled Moonies. That way you know it's safe to go flying. So. And I'm slightly alert. All right, we're just gonna go.
That last shot feels like it's good to know you also do some stunt work.
It's real, man. That was one where, okay, so in what I do, there's a lot of thinking and planning and apologizing and asking for, like, I kind of, like when I made that video, I was like, this is going to be so funny. And like I put it up, and immediately there were people who thought it was real, who were like absolutely just tearing me apart. And then there were people who knew that it was, well, thought it was fake. It's real. And they were like, dude, you can't do that because there's going to be someone out there, and don't wash your propeller while it's spinning, guys. No one should have to say that. There's a lot of that with what I do, where I put it out there and then I'm quickly on the phone with the FAA or legal counsel or someone going, okay, so can you watch this and let me know? But that was the first one where I put something out there, and it was like, I got a ton of emails, and it was 50-50 people that thought it was real and people going, okay, I know this isn't real, but you need to pull that.
So, I mean, wait, which one is it?
I took a picture, I took a video of the plane with the engine running, and down under the DLC, can't see my head. And then I took a video of me polishing the spinner without the propeller moving, and I just cut it and spliced them together.
Little Final Cut movie magic.
Yeah. So one person called me out. He goes, I thought it was real. I watched it 3 or 4 times, and then I noticed the shadow on your legs just stops abruptly. And I said, yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, I didn't look at it that closely. That's good that someone was doing some forensics.
If I did it for real for the rest of my life, the shadow of my legs would probably stop abruptly.
Got some more people in the chat that are saying hi to you. B3 Productions says,
what's up, guys?
Sup. Who else is here? Single Coil. He's cutting to the chase, man. Single Coil says,
Evadot?
careful the company you keep. You may be put on the FSDO watch list by association. We're going to get to that in a little bit. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And Bob Smith and 782 Papa are talking about the speed of the Grumman. We're going to talk about the Grumman at the end. But they're asking, how fast is that Grumman? And Bob Smith says, yeah, he never lets us know how fast the Grumman is.
So I did a video about the Grumman. It's called The Grumman Video. I'm not that creative. And I asked the question a lot in that video, how fast is it? I don't know if I ever officially answered it, but I will answer it for you guys tonight.
This is amazing. World first.
I'll answer it. Yeah. All you have to do is make me an offer on the airplane.
Separately, because we were going to talk tonight, I've actually spent a lot of time looking at Grummans on Barnstormers, and there's some good deals to be had there. We'll talk about Grummans in a minute, but Zach Sherman says, why do people just assume that you're not just being funny?
I don't know. I wish I knew, and I wish they did, because in all honesty, I make videos that I want to see. I really do. I go like, what would make me laugh? And I look at just the absurdities and I say, this would be funny. And I kind of wish everybody understood it, because it's trying to be funny or being funny, whatever you want to say, has caused me a lot of grief. I'm not going to stop. I really enjoy doing it. I never set out to be a YouTuber. We'll talk about what Ryan calls my origin story here in a little bit.
Well, this might be a good way to start, but yeah, let's talk about it.
So Ryan, I think if I recall, Ryan, I think you and I both were Pilots of America forum members before we got into the YouTube thing.
I love that I fooled you. I actually did it. I did it because my friend Marty in the chat said you should check out how successful you were being on Pilots of America. Oh, well,
thank you, Marty. I'm going to not let all these people know how much that means to me. So I'm on this. I've always been a guy. I like words. I like writing. I like writing satire. And I got on Pilots of America, this forum. It's a really great forum. And I never went there and did anything serious. Surprise. I would go in there and I'd write stories. And I would write these really elaborate stories that were funny. And I kind of, prior to that even, I had a blog I used to write funny stories on. And I kept thinking, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, what's my dream, it would be to be a blogger. And so I'd write all these stories. I would take different members of this forum and I would create this story with their characters and it'd be a screenplay. And that's what I love doing. And so I thought I had this blog called Just Plain Silly, and I was writing these stories that just my wife would just come downstairs because I'd be laughing so hard. I cracked myself up. I really do this for me. And one day I started flying the Cirrus and started getting crapped on pretty heavily from the social media people. This is 7 years ago when I don't know, whatever you think about Cirrus, I don't care. But the haters came out, and I was like, man, I am so irritated with just these people. And I'm like, I'm going to go make this video about the stereotypical Cirrus pilot trying to land his plane. So I created this video called How to Land a Cirrus. It was for POA, and it wasn't, I didn't even have a YouTube channel. It was just, I put this video on YouTube and I just put it out there. And a couple days later, this guy, a friend of mine, Kent Shook, says, hey, get off my Facebook page. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, your video's all over Facebook. And I was like, oh no, like I thought that was a bad thing. And then I thought, oh, this will be great. I can use this video to draw attention to my blog. So I named my channel Just Plain Silly, hoping that would draw people over to my blog. I didn't even like the name, and I didn't want to keep it that way. I was like, if I can just have this video growing and getting these people, maybe they'll come over to my blog. And then that never happened. The blog fizzled, and then I did the How to Take Off the Cirrus. And what's weird is the first two videos I ever made are still to this day the highest viewed videos I've ever made. I think I've got one that I made last week that's probably going to pass it next week. But for 4 years, I would never be sitting here as a YouTuber if that very first video hadn't done that. Like I would never have worked as hard as I've had to work with every other video after to get where I've gotten. If the first one had gotten 50 or 100 or 200, and the next one I'd have been like, this isn't for me. So I'm only where I'm at now because that first one worked, and I'm like, okay. And then my blog failed, and I was like, well, I guess I'll make videos. So I don't know, but that's how I got here. That's my origin story.
So a couple reactions to that. One, you know a guy named Kent Shook, and I know a guy named
He
Kent
is
Shook.
a great guy.
He flies out of, well, I don't know if he still flies out of, he shows up at a lot of the events at Timmerman Airport where I fly out of. He's actually, I think, won the spot landing contest in a Mooney, which is insane. And I believe that when I live stream the spot landing contest, and I think my name for him is like Kent Shake and Bake or something.
Yeah,
Shook.
I saw that.
Yeah, so he's a great dude. Also kind of a legendary OG aviation podcaster. If you guys haven't heard of him before, look him up. A couple other things I wanted to just point out. Some new people in the chat. Flight Chops is here. Hey Chops, thanks for joining us.
What's up, Flight Chops?
Marty says, you know where to send the money, Bryan. And then Flight Chops actually says, awesome. I just got, well, he says, hey, he didn't say awesome. He says, hey, I got here just in time. They hate me on that forum.
Oh, do they?
So,
Here, Steve.
when I post videos, which I haven't in a while because I haven't made any like vlogs in a little bit, but when I post them, everyone on Pilots of America gets all up in my business about being on the center line. And the words they use about being on the center line are not safe for children. So it's a hard bunch to please. It's a hard bunch to please.
I've been posting videos over there. That's a forum that has ebbed and flowed. I've been there since 2013, and it's like sometimes everyone's cool, and right now everyone's fighting. And I don't know. Right now I'm out of love with it. I'll go back just because I have a lot of really good friends there. But I haven't posted videos there in a while. I posted one with my friend Bryan last week just because he's a very prolific member of the forum. But other than that, sorry, Andrew, not Bryan. I was thinking about me.
Which is weird because while you were doing that, I wasn't even listening because I was thinking about me.
That's okay. I just like that you're Ryan with a Y, and you probably haven't had to say that ever.
No, I haven't. But you know what I do get a lot is I'll be like, oh yeah, my name's Ryan. And they'll be like, cool, thanks, Bryan. And it's like, okay, well, that's okay. Fine, I'm Bryan today. So what you're saying, though, is I should post a link to this live stream in Pilots of America now that you've said that.
I would go in, honestly, one of you guys in the chat room, I don't know what I'm pointing at. There's a ladder I'm pointing at. But one of you guys in the chat room, get on Pilots of America and just go post a link to this in the chat room. It'll make people mad, but more reason to do it.
Yeah.
Flight Chops, you do it.
Flight Chops, go do it, yeah. Yeah, so Noah Goldstein says, if they hate you, it must mean you're doing something right.
That's what I keep telling the FAA.
Mike Beatty says, don't worry, you're not American, so you're fine, to Flight Chops. Yeah, you get a pass, buddy. Flight Chops gets a pass because he's Canadian, and everyone likes Canadians. So let's talk about... Oh, sorry, I'm spending too much time reading the chat. I'm being rude to you, but I just want to, for our listeners at home who aren't seeing the chat, maybe you're listening on a podcast, which I have not released yet, a very amusing conversation just happened between Angle of Attack and Flight Chops, two really legendary YouTubers in their own right. Angle of Attack says, what is Pilots of America? Should I even care? Flight Chops says, nope. Angle of Attack says, cool, case closed. I don't know. We could just read the chat. So anyway, let's talk about, I mean, you kind of built the segue up for me. What I put in the description of this video is that your channel, I mean, you definitely like have, there's the kind of the famous like parenthetical, I have to shrink it down to parenthetical, like a satire. Right?
Yeah.
That you've been trying to, I think like a lot of us that do flying videos, like I put this big disclaimer, like I am not your instructor, like this is not flight instruction, like I shorten this stuff. I know a lot of other YouTubers do that stuff. You've had to literally say like basically like almost in all caps, like this is a joke.
Yeah, I have most of my videos now, I'm wearing a shirt that just it says parentheses a satire on it. I've come up with this whole line of disclaimer wear that I'm going to start wearing in my videos. Just...
I mean, but even then, you're still. I mean, you've been called by the FAA almost as many. I mean, Tucker Gott is like this paramotor dude who's doing like kind of crazy stuff. You're getting more phone calls than he is. Maybe, I don't know. Someone fact check that.
It's unfortunate, and I guess the biggest gripe I have with all of it is people's unwillingness to come contact me directly. Because one, I can say, hey, this is a joke. Here's this body of work and whatever. And two, I don't want to cuss on your channel. It's kind of wimpy, like to go, oh, I don't like what this guy's doing. So the two primary instances are one, God, on paper this sounds so bad. Someone had asked for flight training on a Facebook, and I said I'm happy to do it, but I'm not certificated as an instructor, so it won't be legal, and you have to pay me cash because I don't want to declare it on my taxes. Well, very quickly I got a phone call with the FAA asking or saying I've been accused of accepting money for giving flight instruction, and I had to go down there and talk to them and show them. The guy went through my logbook, and it was very stressful in the beginning. My heart was pounding when I saw the phone call, and I mean, it was a horrible lead up. But once I got in there and started talking to the guys, it was the most pleasant experience. I will say, if anyone's watching that's a pilot and you've heard the FAA, we're not happy till you're not. The FSDO is your friend. I've interacted with them many times, and they are nothing but pleasant. They really, as far as I know, every experience I've had with them, they are out to help. And the second time, this most recent time I got turned in, it was kind of crappy. I took the joke a little too far. I admit that. I was going to take my instrument written test again. I say again, I didn't fail it. I let it expire. And prior to going to take my test, I thought this was going to be really funny. I posted on Facebook. I got to get off Facebook. I posted on Facebook, hey, I need help with the answer to this question. And I was like, well, hold on, the proctor's coming. Everyone be cool, which was fine. And then I tagged the flight school. And so what happened was I posted this before they opened. I posted it as 2 to 3 hours before I even took my test. I actually forgot a piece of paper, so I had to drive back home and come back for the test. So they knew that I didn't cheat, but they were mad at me for making the joke and tagging them. And so they reported me for cheating, which that's not a good idea to knowingly file a false report with a federal agency. I'll leave it at that. That was a really, really bad idea. And I don't wish any ill will on anybody, but the guy should have called me. He should have untagged himself, but he should have called me and said, dude, not cool. And I would have been like, you know what? You're right. That was probably too far. But, again, I didn't cheat on my test and I never got paid for flight instruction, but I did find myself sitting across from the FAA having to explain these things. So I guess the lesson is, one, you really can end up on the other side of a table from a FSDO guy because of something you do online. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing things that I do online. So I'll see you soon, FSDO.
I liked you mentioned in one of your videos that they gave you a punch card.
Oh, yeah. Do I have it? Yeah, so I carry this around with me because it's a joke, and that's my whole life. So, yeah, the joke is that I now have this frequent FSDO card. And so every time I go to the FSDO now, they just punch it. And then after the 10th punch, I get a free sandwich. So I don't know what I get. But, yeah, I made that up. Just that's what I do.
So I'm gonna read some comments here. Angle of Attack says, if you're not catching flack if you're not over the target.
I like it.
I like that too.
I like it. Thank you, Chris Palmer.
Maxim DS says hello. Hello, Maxim.
What's up, Max?
People are talking about maybe a line of disclaimer wear. We could do. That would be cool. I would buy some. So, they're talking about IFR stuff now. I don't know. We're not even talking about IFR, guys. What are you doing now? Like,
that's asked 2 times now. What do you guys want to
know? What's that? What else? Oh, now there's 2 guys. Someone just got a phone number in the chat. They're doing phone. They're texting. We made a love connection or something in the chat down there. That's good.
Someone swiped right on your chat.
Yeah, I think so. I think we got a Tinder thing going on. Okay, so I wanted to ask you though, like, so does that experience? I mean, you've said, I mean, you kind of answered this already, but I want to just clarify. Like, do you see these experiences changing the way you do business on your channel? Because your channel is exploding. I want to give you some props real quick to people. Like, 1 million views this week as of recording. You're over 10,000 subscribers now, and I think got an extra 1,000 since then in this week. Like, things are really picking up for you. Is any of that hate going to change the way you do business, or?
So, yes and no. So here's the thing. Like I said, I try to do things that I like, and I like jokes. And kind of this new little sort of mantra I have in my head is I need to think past the laugh. So, because the real story with it wasn't right what the guy did with reporting me for cheating. That was absolute BS, and he could have some issues. They are running a business, and if I make this joke and someone says, "Hey, is there cheating going on at this testing center?" and then the FAA is like, "We got to look in and we got to shut them down." So there's a real potential for something that I do that's funny to me to cause a problem, and so I'm not gonna quit, but I am gonna think, okay, what's the ripple effect? Who could this impact? Is this too far? Does it need to be public, or just something I quip to my buddies or whatever? I'm always going to do funny stuff because that's even when I'm not flying. I mean, if I'm doing stuff with my kids or whatever I'm doing, I'm me, and that's just who I am. But I'm definitely thinking things through a little bit more downstream, going, okay, because my friend told me, he goes, I thought it was hilarious, but I knew you were going to get turned in for that, and I was like, I didn't. And in hindsight, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can connect the dots now. So I need to just start thinking a little bit further through the jokes and how they can impact. But I'm not going to stop making them. And I'll keep washing, spinning propellers and doing things like that. But I'm not going to do anything that could potentially impact another human or their business or anything like that. But don't turn people in for cheating who didn't cheat.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, I was trying to come up with a joke about impacting people, but it's not appropriate. The thing that, just to me, it seems like this whole thing could be solved by people just chatting with each other. I mean, my channel's not as large. Like, that guy could have just called you, but like you said, like, this isn't cool. Can you untag me? Or if I don't know how to untag myself, or whatever, because there's a separate implication, which we don't need to get into a little bit, but you've kind of implied, like, now you're also, like, falsifying information to a federal agency. Not you, the guy.
Not me, but go ahead and call me.
Yeah. But, like, there's this issue, right? There's this issue about just being like a human being, right? And I think that's hard with internet and things like that. Make that hard sometimes. I'm gonna keep shouting out. The chat is on fire today. It's great. Dutchy Girl says hello from the Netherlands. So you know Dutchy Girl, or know of her?
I know of her. It's 3:00 in the morning where she's at.
Whoa, that's awesome. And then Noah and Brad, I know we were joking. You guys met at Cubs to Osh, and actually I made a movie about Cubs to Osh. So Noah, did I meet you at Cubs to Osh and then not realize it? It's a whole separate thing. This is not good television to do this. Marty says, from Pilots of America, I like how he blames the flight school when he's the one who posted it on Facebook. Lol.
I don't blame the flight school. Like I said, I took the joke too far. I willingly admit that, and I apologize to the guy. His actions were, in my opinion, extreme. But
I don't disagree. But anyway, I personally, just me, like, I've been a fan of yours. I mean, I was super pumped that you were willing to come on the show tonight, because I've been a fan of yours for a long time, ever since. I think, actually, I learned about you, like, we were walking past a tent at Oshkosh, and Marty said, oh, hey, you should check out this guy's channel. I don't know, it was like some sort of, I don't know what kind of tent it was, but it was like not like a tent. Like, you weren't, like, sleeping. We weren't, like, creeping in on you while you're sleeping. I don't know. This is weird. This is going off the rails. There was, like, a tent with, like, people serving coffee or something, and he was like, hey, like, you should check this guy out. We started talking about your channel, and I love it because I don't believe there's anything else like it in aviation YouTube. I mean, there's been people over the course of my training that I've experienced doing comedy for the benefit of pilots, but I don't think anyone is hitting it the way you're hitting it. So I don't know. I just
Thank
say
you very much. That means a lot. I'm guessing, man. I'm guessing all the time. I don't know what I'm doing, and I tell my wife every video I upload, and I'm like, I'm not looking at it. I just cringe for a while, and then I'll come back and see how it's doing. I always feel like I'm going to put something up, and it's just going to be like, you're stupid and terrible, but it's always kind. So
see, I feel that way about my content too. The vlogs that I make, and it's like I lose sleep. I lose a lot of sleep about it because I don't want to make a mistake. Don't want to upset anybody. The last live stream I did a couple of weeks back with Sarah Nisler from EAA, like put it on Reddit thinking like, oh, this is pretty benign. Like she talked about the Osh cancellation and was very open about what happened, and the chat was really positive. And then like this guy on Reddit just erupted about like experimentals and how kits are for weaklings, and like you need to be like, you're not actually like a home builder unless you like pour the aluminum yourself. Like forge it yourself, and it was like this huge thing. And I had some of the people that follow my channel reaching out being like, why are you even trying with this guy? I don't know. I didn't go to like troll 101 school, I guess, but I was like, come on, man, like it's all that we're all on the same team, like airplanes are cool. And he was just like, ah. So if I can erupt that.
The thing about aviation is there's a lot of really strong opinions. And a lot of the people with the really strong opinions are right and you're wrong. And so it can be a beating if you engage. I used to engage heavily with sorry, I just got distracted by.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Flight Chef says someone is defending the dude that falsified a federal report and claimed Bryan was cheating when he knew he wasn't. Yeah, no, it's a mess.
It's tough, though, with when I got into aviation, that was probably one of the first things I noted was, this is going to be fun. I'm going to be with a bunch of like-minded people who have this little kid in their head that just is in awe and enamored with flight. And that was destroyed like pretty quickly on when I was, on the internet, right? Not in real life. Everyone's fairly nice, but the tail wheel pilots and the Cirrus pilots and the whatever pilots and the high wing versus it's always them versus us type of, and it's just like, no one's having fun. And so it was a little bit, I don't know, when you become a pilot, it's not a bunch of wild-eyed kids who are getting to do this amazing thing that we get to do, that we're fortunate because we live not only in a time, but a country and Canada flight shops where we're able to do this. And I feel like a lot of people, I don't know, maybe they feel like because they worked so hard to get here that somehow they're a superior pilot, or they fly this thing that took an extra rating or something, they're superior. But there is a lot of that, especially online. And it's a little unfortunate because when you go to Oshkosh and you see all these pilots, they're all your best friends. They're like the awesomest people in the world. So I don't know, but yeah, I've slowly backed off of getting in engagements with people who disagree with me, unless their disagreements are like, if Marty wants to have a conversation about this, I'm happy to. But if someone's like, you're not a real pilot because you fly a plane with a parachute, then I'm like, I'm done. I'm not. I don't even. Okay, you're right.
I mean, you're not. So.
I know it's plastic too. That's the reason I have the equipment. Is just to show other people that I know how to use the rudder.
So you brought up something, and someone I'm scrolling to find it, guys. This is there's been a lot of really great comments. Dutchy Girl says, awesome, you remembered Bryan, with a big smiley emoji. Yeah, man, of course. I guessing.
Saw your post. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the question that I think you and I should address, and I'm sure that some of the other folks in the chat will address this too, but Zachary Sherman says, as a near future student pilot, I have to say the strong opinions you speak of scare me a bit. And I have some thoughts on that, but I wonder if you would want to respond to that first.
Stay off the internet. I mean, that's go to Oshkosh, go to your local airport, go to a flight club, go visit people in person who are pilots. I've never had a negative encounter with a pilot in person. It's internet-based rhetoric that gets thrown around. Pilots of America is a great example. I have made more friends off that forum from flying to Gaston's in Kentucky and Oshkosh and meeting up with these people, and we bicker and fight online like we hate each other. I try not to. But there's these people where I'm just like, oh man, this guy just makes me mad. If I ever see him, I'm just going to walk away. And then you meet him in person and you're like, these are the salt of the earth people. Just don't spend a whole lot of time learning about, I don't know, interacting with pilots on the internet that rub you the wrong way or whatever. And don't get sucked into it. But go engage with people in real life who are flying, because you will just, it's a totally different experience in real life than on the internet. Early on, and I'll tell you, when I started the YouTube channel, I was talking to someone about this the other day. I was like, early on, people would leave like 100 really nice comments. There'd be like one mean comment, and I would think about that mean comment for like a week and be like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is like, people online can just be pretty tough, and not even with the YouTube thing, but I wouldn't stress out about it. Go find a flight instructor that you click with, go out and fly, go out and have fun. And then if you see someone who's expressing a strong opinion, just ignore it. Just ignore it.
I think the only thing I would add to that is, and I've talked about this, I think, here a couple of times, and Chris Palmer and I were just talking about this as well. I think sometimes what happens with aviation is we all work so hard to get to this point, and he and I were talking about how like flight training is the great equalizer, right? So like you can certainly, like, if you have money to buy, like I didn't have money to buy a Cirrus jet. But like if you do and you enter aviation with that kind of resources, you're still gonna struggle. You can't just like buy your way into knowing this stuff, right? So there's this equal experience, and it's hard, and then it becomes so special that people allow their passion for the part that they love, right? Like I used to be the guy. I'll admit to you, Zachary. Like I used to be the guy that. I went to a tailwheel training school, and I was like, I am never going to fly a nose wheel airplane. Because I was just like, this is going to be, that was my like stupid thing. Now here I am like flying a Cessna, right? But like, you realize that it's all the same stuff, but people are so passionate about, like the guy in Reddit I was talking about, he's so passionate about this niche within a niche of home building, which I think is super cool. I love that he's so passionate about that. His passion is like blinding him to the fact that like we're all kind of like tangentially associated, right? So I think I would just say I mirror your advice in terms of, well, hey, like if you're passionate about warbirds, go hang out with the warbird guys at Oshkosh or wherever around your local airport. But like one of those guys might have like a super cool Cessna 172, and you might find some value in learning about that. Like we're all in this together. I just think we inadvertently gatekeep because it feels so special, and our passion like blinds us. I don't know. Maybe I'm just waxing poetic about now, but
I don't care what you fly or how long you've flown or how many hours you have. Everybody did that first solo where they took off and had that moment where they're like, "Oh crap, I got to get this thing back down." Every single pilot, no one had that moment and was like, "I've got this. I'm a future tailwheel pilot. I can do anything." It didn't. Everyone had that moment where even if they're faking confidence or whatever, when their instructor got out of that plane, in the back of their head, they were going, "Dude," they're questioning, So the ego thing is it's not as bad as maybe I'm making it out to be. Again, I'm someone who attracts a certain type of attention, so I see it a lot, especially online. But again, I think you're right. The in-person thing makes a difference, and I do think the niche within a niche thing, because there's so many different niches inside aviation. I can see people getting tucked into one and going, "Oh, this is where it's at." Those people are fooling themselves. It's not true.
Yeah, I totally agree. And actually, I wanted to ask you I want to change the subject slightly, but I think this will be fun. Hopefully, if you can decline to answer this question if you want.
Oh, boy.
Worst internet comment you ever received?
I'll tell you right now, and I know the guy. I remember the guy's handle, and he's gone. I haven't seen him in a while. And I remember it's probably 2, maybe 3 years ago. I remember opening up YouTube and scrolling through my comments and saying, "I can't wait to see your name on an NTSB report." And I was like, man, that's rough. Like,
so that's way worse than I was expecting you to say.
I'm
really sorry. That's like so mean.
I know. I'm like, I have a family and a mom and kids.
Wow.
And I'm like, what a thing to say. Like, I frequently get, "Oh, there's 7 minutes I'll never get back." And I'm always like, why did it take you 7 minutes to figure out you didn't like this?
Right. Yeah.
But when you're like, I hope you die. Like, that's basically what this guy was saying was, "I hope you die." And I was just like, my first thought was, I'm going to pin this to the top so other people can respond to it, because I'm not going to. But I was just like, that's here. I'm talking about it 3 years later. Like, I remember that, and I remember the handle. I could tell you who it was. And I was like, man, that was, wow. That was a really awful thing.
I was going to make a joke about, I don't even know if I should say what mine was, because it's just a joke. And you have like a real sense.
And it was a pilot. It wasn't just some troll who came along. I'm familiar with who he was at the time.
Yeah, wow. No, that I was like, I should have thought about that more before I asked the question. My worst one was just, and I printed it out. It's not that bad. I don't even know if I should say it, because people are like, what? I thought it was hilarious. I felt like, wow, like I'm going to be I'm going to be successful at this endeavor. Because I had someone write, just like, your videos would be so much better if they didn't have your face in them. And I thought that was really funny, and I printed it out at work, and I put it like on the wall, like at on my desk. I have not had anyone tell me that they can't wait to see me die. So
I want to go on the record as saying I'm sorry about that comment. I was having that day, and that day your face just rubbed me the wrong way. You can forgive me.
I will. Yeah, I'll forgive you for sure. That is so... I'm, like, shocked at that answer. But separately, I guess not totally shocked, because hashtag the internet. I'm just going to check in with the chat before I want to talk a little bit about the flying you're doing. Chat in. Hey, Timmerman Pilot, welcome to the chat. Gary, I don't know if I said hi to you. Gary, welcome to the chat. Zach says, thanks for your thoughtful response, Brian. Zach, I think the big thing is just, like, do it, man. You're going to find your community wherever you're at, and we all want to see you succeed. And if you want to reach out to me, or I'm sure some of the other people in the chat, we'd all love to support you in that journey. Like, there's some comments here. Oh, Air Jer's in the chat. Hey, Air Jer, welcome. People talking about EAA chapters. That's a great way to find support. And Ryan Krueger says, make sure you remember to have fun as you do the training, which I think is good advice too. And then 782 Papa, he says his quest is to get me building an airplane. Bro, yes, let's do it. I think home building is awesome. I think home building is awesome. If I had the room and the time right now and the money, I would already be doing it right now. I don't want you to think I'm not into home building based on that story about Reddit. I think it's super cool. I've got literally some of the guys from around here can tell you, I've got like a spreadsheet of home builds that I dream about, and it's everything from like fly babies to like turbine legends. Like, it's just like I don't know. I can't stop thinking about them. Okay, so Flight Chops is talking about he's pinned haters as well. And he says, well, let's jump in real quick. He says, my worst comment was a sick thing about, I'm not going to read this out loud. He said, okay, so Flight Chops had someone comment about his daughter, and that made him feel rage. And yeah, I worry about that too with my daughters. And you've got kids too, I think.
Yeah,
dude, I don't even know. I will add this one to the video, though. He says, the internet is a rough place, man. The internet is a rough place. I totally agree.
I will tell you, it's been good, though, because this sounds lame, but early on my feelings would be hurt by these comments. And now, and I mean, really, my wife would always, she's smart, she'd always be like, you got 300 comments on this video, and every one of them is saying great, and you're, like, depressed about this one comment. She goes, do you realize how that doesn't make sense? I'm like, I get it. But, and that's, early on, it hurt. I kept thinking about, I'm going to stop making videos because I don't want people to think I suck. And now I don't care if you think I suck or not. But just tell me I suck in every video. I'm fine with it. I've grown so much in a lot of different ways by learning like what matters and what doesn't matter. And this transcends YouTube. When people say something negative about you, you're not the one with the problem. It's them. So negativity and all that kind of stuff, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the person who's spewing it. And so I think YouTube has actually helped me personally a little bit, knowing when I hear these comments in real life. I used to in real life, if I'm at work and someone, give me some flippant comment or something that bothered me, and now I'm at the point where I'm like, that guy, something's going on in that guy's life, and I truly have in probably the last 2 years have started to realize that's real. And what matters isn't negativity coming at your way. You know, I heard someone recently say, people who are doing better than you aren't going to criticize you. It's the people who aren't doing as well as you that are going to criticize you. And so that's kind of where I'm at in my life with these comments. And so for me, I think getting on the internet and doing this and having to put on that bulletproof vest or whatever, it's helped me grow sort of mentally in real life and on the internet and stuff. It doesn't really bother me at all. If you want to see me on NTS or B report, okay, fine. But for 2 solid years, I would get those comments and it would really, I'd be like, man, I suck. And so, but I've grown because of it. So maybe just dive into it and find the bulletproof vest while you're out there. Cause that's kind of where I've gotten at this point. I'm also older. I'm 44 now. But,
you are very handsome though. So like, I never would have guessed 44. Like have you been hitting the gym lately or?
No.
Okay. I would just throw that out there. Like, it's like a kind of
it's all gray now.
Yeah, but that's so distinguished.
Dude, my wife hasn't even called me handsome. What are you doing later?
I mean, you can hop in the car or the plane, man. Come on up. We'll hang out.
The thumbnail for this video, you're like, give me a headshot. I give you a headshot where I'm hiding my face behind the sump cup. Which, by the way, I know everyone's going to ask, you know what? I drink a lot of fluids that come out of my plane. And you may be thinking, Bryan, where can I get a sump cup for my coffee and my beer and whatever? But what you also probably wondering, and I'm going to answer this question, no one knows, they're not dishwasher safe.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, so I'm working on, here, you know what I'm working on? Because I'm merch eligible now. I'm going to make a coffee cup that instead of printing my logo or anything on it, it's just going to be a sump cup, and the coffee cup in the bottom half is going to be blue. So look for that. And it will be dishwasher safe. But your GATS jar is not, it's going to melt in the dishwasher. So
I was going to ask you, is it like Gatorade or is that a trade secret?
Trade secret. It started out as a prank. I was two people that didn't really know me that well wanted to go flying with me, and I thought, man, it'd be kind of funny if when they show up, I just come out from under the wing with the jar and take a swig out of it. And this guy, he's a friend I met from pilots that we're friends now. It was the first time I'd met him. His name's Chris. And so I told him, yeah, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be in the Cirrus. Just, holler and, come out. And so I see this guy walking towards the plane. I come out and take a swig. And this guy's eyes were like saucers. Like, he's like, holy crap. And he literally goes, I don't know what you just did, but if that's your thing, whatever, man. And I was like, okay, but you're still going to get in a plane with me. And then so I said, hey, I've invited my friend Mike along too. And I'm going to do the same thing to him. And so Chris is sitting in the back seat, and then I see Mike pulling up. And so I get under the wing, and I get the thing with the sump jar. And I see Mike. Mike's like, hey, Bryan, what's going on? I get out there the jar, and he's just like, yeah, no, not buying it. But this guy, what I did for the video, and it came out too blue, was I just put water, and I just put some whatever sprinkles were in my pantry at the time that happened to be blue. So that's the secret.
That's the secret. All right, because I wanna steal the joke and try it with my friend the next time I go flying and just see what happens.
I get weird looks, man. So when you're at your hangar pouring chocolate syrup on your face and drinking fuel out of the deal, that's the weirdest part of my life. Is there's a guy walking by and I'm like, just keep on going, like sitting there with the syrup on my face, and cars are driving by because my plane's not in a closed hangar; it's in an open hangar, that Grumman, and so cars drive by the taxiways and stuff. So you have to overcome being an idiot in public if you're going to be me when you grow up.
It's yeah. Well, so here's the thing: come up to Wisconsin and get a hangar here because they're almost all enclosed because winters suck. So then you can just be a fool inside the hangar. I wanted to Ryan asks in the chat and I want to talk about this Grumman in a second, but Ryan asks you, Bryan, what is your favorite video you have made?
My favorite video I made is one that didn't do very well, and I just it cracks me up. I don't watch my stuff all that much. Every once in a while I'll go, because I make a video and then I kind of go, I look at the stats. Is it doing well? Okay, and I don't want to watch it. There's one that I like, and it's about emergencies, in-flight, how to handle in-flight emergencies. And the premise is stupid, but it's just about how if you lose your instruments in the clouds, how are you going to stay oriented and not get spatially disoriented? And the premise was that you bring a coffee cup full of butterflies, and then you open the butterflies in flight, and then you just try to maintain the attitude of the aircraft, sort of how the butterflies are. And as long as you're kind of in line with the butterflies, you're going to be okay. There's just a whole lot of hope. And there was like a whole thing, like my favorite line in there is I was like, but don't try it with bees. I tried it with bees, and as you could probably imagine, by the time I landed, the whole plane was covered in honey. So like just a bunch of little kind of one-off things like that. I don't know. I like that one. I do like the intro video you played where I was doing the TFR thing and the Iron Eagle spoof or whatever. But the most, it's funny, the ones I tend to like more are the ones that tend to not do as well. The slapstick kind of stuff, the pouring oil on my face, those are the ones that kind of tend to do well. So, but yeah, go watch them all and subscribe, and you tell me what's your favorite.
That was expertly done.
Yeah,
that was expertly done. So, okay, let's talk about you started. I mean, you talked about in the beginning. You talked a little bit about you had your first real aircraft. That video was a Cirrus. You were flying a Cirrus, and I'm wondering if actually I've got a little B-roll of your Cirrus. There, or the one you were flying, I'm assuming.
That's me and my dad last year went to Appleton to go to Oshkosh, and so this was his first trip to Oshkosh, and he's in there. He's a gadget guy, so as soon as he saw that Sentry, even though we've got a Scout and we got a Stratus, he's like, oh, I got to get one of these Sentries too. So we have all these ADS-B devices. So that video is him in Appleton installing the Sentry for our ADS-B on the way home. That was a fun trip.
So I've never flown in a Cirrus before, and I'm wondering, I mean, obviously I've seen the video you made that kind of kicked this all off, but like, let's switch it to like very serious pilot talk for a minute.
The first person ever to say that to me.
Like, you sent me some pictures, and maybe we should go about it this way. You did your training in this plane, which is like a Tampico?
It's a Cicada TB9 Tampico. They have a Tampico, Tobago, and most people are probably familiar with the Trinidad.
Whenever I look at that, I think about Tropicana, like orange juice or tapioca. That's that's not a very good joke. But anyway.
Well, the call letters, when people are like, what is your aircraft type? And you're like, TAMP. They're always like, oh, I'll just call you November. Like, I don't know what you're telling me.
Talk to me about that. Like, that's a unique aircraft to learn to fly in as well. I think most people are learning in 150s, some people in some, light sport tail dragger type things. Like, what's that like? Is it rare? I don't know if anyone else has ever flown one of those in the chat. I've never even seen one of those.
They're fairly rare. I think in Texas there's only 3 or 4 TB9s that are registered here. Very, very sturdy plane that you can absolutely beat the crap out of. It doesn't go fast and it doesn't carry a lot of weight, but it's very, very well built. And it's a conversation starter. People always walking up going, what on earth is that? It's a French-built plane with not so great visibility over the front, but the visibility over the sides is awesome. It's got it's a low wing with 2 doors, which is something that I like. I have great memories of that plane because my father was a pilot when I was a kid, and I went out and started taking lessons. And I think I don't know. My dad probably thought, oh, he's going to get this out of the system or something. I remember coming home with my shirt towel and going, I soloed. And then, like, within the next week, my dad's like, all right, I've got an instructor. We're going to get this plane. And so me and my dad he got recurrent after a 30-year hiatus, and I finished my training in this plane. So it was a really neat experience to do our training together and stuff. So he and I have a lot of memories. He'll tell you of going really, really slow in this plane. He got tired of going slow, and so he said he wanted to upgrade to the Trinidad. And then he started thinking about, mom and family and people flying in the plane. And he really wanted to have, if something happened to him while he's flying, he wanted to have the caps, the out. And for the Cirrus haters out there, I've never used it. But so he was deciding. We looked at some Trinidads and we looked at this Cirrus here. This is me and my dad. We just had a major overhaul, and for our first flight, we decided we were going to fly to Roswell, New Mexico. We went and had a trip out there. But so we transitioned from the Tampico to the Cirrus, which was I remember we went to Florida to go buy this plane, and we bought it from John Travolta's next door neighbor. We were going out to, it's at some airport called Jumbo Air, and we didn't know anything about it. We pulled up, and I was like, this is an air park, but there's like a 707 out there. And I remember, that was kind of a cool memory. We got in this plane. We had our instructor with us that we had commercial out with us. And I remember my dad and I looking at each other going, we are never going to be able to fly this plane. It's so complicated. The instructor's trying to explain the Evadot, and we'd never had glass before, or it was so complicated. And I was like, I told my dad, I said, for the first 50 hours, the rule is we're not flying this solo. Like we're not capable. And now it's the easiest plane in the world to fly. I love it. It's such a great plane.
So you go from the Cirrus, and it sounds like you still fly it, and then you get this cool bird, which I gotta say separately, like, one of my favorite things about your plane is that it's not just like white.
I have a very pretty airplane. This is probably the prettiest plane I'll ever own. And I'm really sad because my son is eating me out of house and home, and I'm probably not going to have this plane for a whole lot longer. I've never hidden the fact that my father owns the Cirrus, and he is extremely, day one, he got 2 sets of keys made, and he said, this is yours, these are mine, have at it. And I absolutely recognize how awesome that is. Being an adult, I don't like feeling that way, and I don't like putting miles on my dad's plane. It's a very, very expensive plane, and with the other plane, I could contribute to maintenance and all this stuff, and it put a dent in it. With the Cirrus, I really okay, I can put in what we put in for the old annual, and it's a drop in the bucket. It's a much more expensive aircraft. And I thought, you know what, I don't feel right, and so for going and flying 40 to 50 miles, 3 times a week to go get a $100 hamburger, I don't need to be doing it in that aircraft. I need to have my own plane for that, so that I'm not, putting hours and miles in his plane. So when I do cross country stuff with the family, we do long trips, stuff like that, we'll take the Cirrus. But for me, just bumming around and having fun, the Grumman is the most fun airplane. In Texas, with flying around with that canopy open, it is just a blast. And I wish they had a 200 horsepower version that was a little bit larger and had a little bit better CG situation for the family. But we're outgrowing the Grummans at this point. But they're fantastic airplanes.
I've watched a lot. I've watched a lot of videos of you flying the Grumman, but the one that I actually thought was really informational and kind of like sold me on it a little bit was you had was it flying doodles, sailing doodles?
It used to be sailing doodles. Now he spun up flying doodles.
Yeah, and what's weird about the flying sailing doodles is a great channel. You guys, if you want to do sailboats, you can go watch Sailing Doodles. There's a little bit of a gimmick to that channel that has to do with bikinis. But what I was going to say is I was happy that he didn't make you put one on when you took him up in the Grumman.
There was a lot of negotiation. Do I wear it or do you wear it?
But like, all jokes aside, that video was really interesting to me just to hear your description about like the flying. In that video, you guys just kind of go fly it, and you're teaching him about a type he doesn't know anything about. And so after that, I started doing a lot of research on them, and they seem like kind of a contender I hadn't considered before. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about, I mean, you've had kind of a unique trajectory with the aircraft you've flown, like transitioning then, so you go from the tapioca to the to the Cirrus. I legit couldn't remember the name of it.
That's fine. That's what I'm going to call it forever when I talk about it.
To the Cirrus, right? And you got the caps, so we talked about that, and obviously that's one of those. Zach, our friend in the chat, like you want to get into a very passionate discussion about that pilots have, for better or for worse. The parachute is one of them.
I feel obligated to say something right here, and I hate that I have to say this. They did not add the parachute to the plane because it wouldn't get out of a spin. That is such a prolific internet thing. I hear it all the time. I was going flying a few months back, and a line guy was like, "Oh, that's a great plane. You better not stall it." But why better I not stall it? Well, because it can't recover. And I'm like, I don't know where this stuff comes from. The guy who started the Cirrus, he was in a midair collision, and unfortunately the other pilot had perished. And so they said, we are going to come up with a way to build a plane that can survive these types of things. And so before the plane even existed, they had talked to the guy who came up with the ballistic recovery system and said, we're going to build a plane around this so that people have this other option. Now, when they built the Cirrus, they took it over to Europe, and Europe said, that's great, it's got to shoot. Show us that you can get it out of a spin. And they spun it 61 times. They got it out of a spin with normal inputs. In the United States, they said, you know what? You've got to shoot. We're not going to require that. So in the United States, there's a thing that's placard that says, if you get in a spin, you pull the chute. I would try the pair method, and it would probably work. But there's this myth that they had to put the chute on it because it's so unstable, it can't get out of spin. It's absolute nonsense, but it's very prolific. So if you hear that
tonight on Aviation Mythbusters with Ryan and Bryan, coming at you with debunking aviation myths. Okay, so you go from that aircraft. It's a very complex aircraft, very fast, has this additional safety of being able to pull the chute or whatever. Then you go to your Grumman, which we talked a little bit about, and I know we're almost out of time for tonight, but you go to the Grumman. Do you miss having that extra layer of safety, or is it just like a plane's a plane and we all train for what we're dealing with?
So it's kind of interesting how I've said it to people, and this is weird. I'm probably closing in on 1,000 hours, and I have never flown a plane with a variable pitch prop. I don't know how to use the blue knob. I look at it and I'm like, I should probably go figure it out. It just hasn't come up. And so I don't think about that red handle any more than someone with a variable pitch prop thinks about that blue knob. It's not in my mindset. If there's a problem, certainly, I'm going to be like, okay, based on my altitudes, I'm going to decide, is that an option for me or not? And statistically, it's above 1,000 feet, under 133 knots, it's got a 100% success rate. Off-field landing, not so much. So for me, I'll take the internet beating for pulling it. But I don't think about it, and when I fly my Grumman, I don't miss it. If something terrible were to happen, a wing comes off or something catastrophic, I would certainly wish I had it. But it's I will say, the only difference in the way I fly with and without the Cirrus, and some people, they say, oh, Cirrus pilots will fly into all kinds of unsafe situations because they got to shoot. I don't generally launch after night in my Grumman, and I don't launch after night in any plane. I love to fly at night. It's peaceful and smooth and great. I tend to not do it just because you're limiting yourself. With this Cirrus, I'm more likely to fly later past sunset. But with my Grumman, I'm starting to look, okay, sunset today was 8:28, and I've got about 30 minutes of useful light after that. Can I get down before that? So I have that thought process in the Grumman that I don't necessarily do in the Cirrus. So is that lulling me into an unsafe behavior? It's not illegal. It's not unsafe. My minimums are slightly different. So for me, those are the rules. But I don't think about it.
I think that's a fair assessment with night, right? Like night, I remember my instructor when I was doing my night cross country saying, there are, just like anything in aviation, like night flight has a different set of risks, or maybe a slightly elevated compared to day, right? But we have to balance those risks versus the reward. And I think that's fair.
I'll tell you, one time I was flying the Cirrus, I was going to go to Louisiana, and I took off, and in hindsight, I know what happened. There was a wrist pin that snapped in half inside one of the pistons. But all I knew at the time was the plane started losing power, and it was shaking violently. And I would add power, and it would get worse, and I would take power out, and it would get worse. And I remember you're like, A, B, C, D, but no, what I first thought was, Bryan, what the hell are you doing in this plane? This is a hobby. This isn't, and then I was like, snap out of it. And I called, center and said, hey, I'm having a problem. And they said, do you want to declare an emergency? And I said, no. I said, let me see if I can get back to the airport. It didn't even occur to me, I was having a situation that I knew I needed to get down, and I had a real problem. But I was making power, and I was confident that I could get to one of two airports I was by. I honestly, something seriously devastating I think would have to happen for me to grab that. If I lost the engine completely and I wasn't sure where I was going to put it down, I'd probably use it. But even in that moment, probably the scariest thing that's happened to me in a plane, and it didn't even cross my mind. So I'm glad it's there. I like that it's there. If we're flying with the family and something happens to me, my wife can use it. But it's not something I'm sitting here just as my safety, line or something like that. I really don't think about it like a lot of people kind of imply.
Sure. Some questions in the chat about the Grumman. 782 Papa is wondering, can you fly with the canopy completely open? It's a no-no in his RV6.
10 inches. So 10 inches up to 133 miles per hour. And I will say probably an inch and a half is all you need. It is. It's a novelty past that because it just gets really loud and really windy. I've been up in over 100 degrees in the summer. You just crack it a couple of inches. I literally have a binder clip, one of those black binder clips. It's maybe an inch and a half. And I put that on the side of the plane so the canopy will stay open, and that's more than enough to keep it cool. So yeah, you can.
That's super cool. Some of my favorite flights have been in. I did a lot of flying in the J3 Cub, big door hanging open. Had a couple flights in like open cockpit biplanes. So having that ability to open up a little bit feels like it just adds to the experience. I don't know. I dig it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
You sent me a cool little video about your Grumman here while we talk about it, and I didn't even play it. We got to play it. There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Pretty airplane.
I secretly wanted to take this video and superimpose drone rotors on the side of it because I've got a gimbal on like an 8-foot pole, just to see if anyone would turn me into the FSDO for flying a drone at an airport.
You gotta have a really good relationship with those guys at this point.
I do. The local guys are so great.
That's awesome. So before we sign off for the night, I guess what I'd like to do is I wanted to ask you, you've done a lot more flying than I have. You've had a lot of cool experiences. I wanted to ask you two last questions. One was just favorite flight that you've ever had. Let's start there. What was your favorite flight you've ever done?
All right, so you and I talked about one earlier, and we can talk about that. My real favorite flight. Okay, so when I was a little kid, I flew model airplanes, and every Saturday morning, my mom would take me out to the model airplane field from the age of 13 to the age of 16, and she would sit there and read her books while I flew my model airplanes. And so she and I always, and how awesome of her to do that for me. So she and I always kind of had this thing where she knew I loved flying, and so I got my pilot's license right around my mom's birthday. And so for her birthday, I made a boarding pass, and it was for my mom. You're my first passenger. And so I gave her this boarding pass, and of course she's tearing up because we have this like flying bond sort of thing. And so I'd never had a passenger before. And so mom hops in, and the weather was kind of coming in, and I was like, well, it's only going to be probably 15 minutes, but I'm going to have this flight with my mom. And I've got a video, and I mean, just to see my mom kind of beaming, like, and she's tearing up, and it was it is hands down my favorite flight I've ever taken in a plane. So that's my real favorite flight. If we have time, we can talk about the other flight we talked about, but
I mean, we have as much time as you want.
All right. So when
although I will just say that favorite flight for me was very similar. Taking my wife, taking my dad, taking my mom up. My mom's no longer with us, and so I think I have this GoPro video of her just plopping it in a J3, and her being like so polite about it because she wants me to still be confident. Literally, like her whole body is like crushed down with how aggressively we bounced, and she was like, "That was a really nice landing, honey." Mom was good. All right, so tell me, you had a funny story about another flight you enjoyed.
All right, you guys got to understand, I'm a mental 13-year-old, and that's never going to change. But anyway, one day this app had come out called Cloud Ahoy, and it had this unique ability to trace your flight, which we've all got now, and we love it. And so, being a mental 13-year-old, I was like, I've got to go up on this with this Cloud Ahoy app and draw an obscene image in the sky way before the Navy made it cool. I was first. I was a pioneer in the drawing inappropriate images in the sky. But I knew that if I was going to show this to people, they're going to be like, you're an idiot. So the only way to legitimize it was to find an instructor who was willing to go up with me for this sole purpose. And what I learned was when you go up with someone and you're going to go like, hey, our goal is to fly this, this art project in the sky. We briefed the flight, but we didn't brief the drawing. And so what I learned is on the longest leg of the flight, we're talking, and we're like, okay, we're going to fly 270 fly. And then we started having a conversation about, well, should we turn back now? And I'm like, why would we turn back now? What, you need to get home? What makes you think this is the point? He's like, no, I'm not saying we should turn back. I'm just saying to save fuel. I'm like, okay, so as long as we both agree, the only reason we're turning at this point is to save fuel, and not because the art project is not dimensionally accurate. I'm okay with turning back, but really, we know we could be in California before we got this how we needed it. And so, we of course turned back. And then we got in this big fight. He's like, so he's like, you need to go over here and go around this delta. And I was like, no. We're going around this delta around here. He's like, is this a profile or a top down? He's like, Bryan, we got to talk about these things before we fly. And so that was one of the first blog posts I made, flying things with my friend Alex. If you go to justplainsilly.com, you can read the story. It's pretty funny. It's a true story. And I have the flight path. Such a child.
You were there first. You were there first.
In the Navy.
Wait, what if we find out? It's going to be another punch on your card. Is they're going to finish? They're probably still investigating the Navy incident because these things take a long time. And the Navy pilot's going to be sitting there. It's going to be like that scene in Top Gun where he's like, all dressed in his dress uniform, and they're got the panel of lawyers and everything, JAG or whatever it's called. And they're going to be like, well, where did you get the idea to do that, son? And he's going to be like, well, there's this blog post. Just plain silly. You should really check it out, Commander, Admiral, whatever. Okay. All right. We got to wrap it up for the night. This has been awesome. I could talk to you all night, buddy. It's been great.
Too, this is fun. I'm glad we finally got a chance to do this because I've followed you. As soon as I saw the Girl Scout thing and then whatever your recurrent, like I watch your stuff and I'm like, man, this guy and I see the world very similarly. And so I'm like, at some point I need to cross paths with him. And so I'm very excited to being able to do this. So thank you for having me.
No, thanks for being on the show. And I think separately, we have to do a collaboration sometime as soon as the world calms down a little bit. We can throw the two of us in the same plane, and then maybe we will. Nope, that's not even going to joke about that. I was going to say that maybe that guy will get that NTSB report. Nope.
And I do feel obligated to say, Marty, I hope I don't come off as shutting you down with your comment. I've been thinking about what you said. I respect your opinion, so don't. When I answered you about the FSDO thing, I'm not. I'm happy to discuss my thoughts on that with you. So hopefully I didn't come off as rude.
I think Marty was quoting somebody else.
Oh, okay.
I think he agrees with you 100%.
I'm right, Marty. You're wrong.
So real quick before we wrap up, where can people find you? Where can they find your stuff?
Good Lord. YouTube, Just Plain Silly is my channel. If you want to have some fun, you can go to a website I built called meetaraf.com. Someone somewhere said, wouldn't it be great if we had what the forecast for pilots? And I was like, on it. So I built that. I'm building it up, and I'm going to try to make it a mobile app. If you're a VFR pilot in the U.S., I've got a site called preflightdata.com. You just put in your departure airport, your destination airport, and it prints out a knee board for you with all the pertinent information about the airports, the en route directions, and frequencies. I do have the old derelict blog, justplainsilly.com, and worldsgreatestpilot.com, where you can ask me questions, and from time to time I'll put a video together answering those questions. So I'm kind of in a lot of places.
That's epic. I use all of those sites.
Thank you.
Well, I don't really use World's Greatest Pilot because that's actually me.
No, there's nothing of value there for you guys.
My lawyer will be reaching out to you about that one. We have a disagreement, but we'll keep it civil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Marty clarified. He says that was a quote. He says, totally. All right. Dudes, I'm going to wrap it up here, but I just wanted to say thanks to everyone for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe. I noticed still half of the people that watch this aren't subscribed, and you won't know necessarily when the next one's coming out. Next, we've got Josh Flowers from Aviation 101 has agreed to be on. Mr. Muscles Glasses himself. So I'll be getting mostly tips about push-ups and bicep curls, I think, from him. And but if you like this stuff, subscribe, comment, share it with your friends. That's the biggest thing. And if you really like it, check out the Patreon thing. I got just a lot of patches I don't know what I'm going to do with. So anyway, Bryan, thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate it. And
I had so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, let's get together soon. And everyone else, thanks for being here. We'll see you. I got to stall because I had to figure out what button to push. We'll see you next time.
Y'all take care.